Okay, we should be live. So
All right.
first, I'm just going to do a quick rundown of what this is, and then I'm going to ask you a warm-up question, and then we can dive in. So, yeah, this is our first media exchange where we're talking about, it's not an exchange, I already messed it up. All right. It's the media circle discussion where um, we're talking about a piece of media, we're kind of thinking of it as a work of art and taking what we get from it artistically. So first, how this is going to work is that I've invited Dimitri to be the speaker for this one, and so Dimitri and I are going to talk about this for a little bit. Dimitri's going to play it, and then after that, we're going to kind of open up the floor, and then we're all just going to have a kind of free discussion. So Dimitri and I are basically going to seed the ideas, and then we can go from there. So, before we begin, I got the warm-up question. Dimitri, what was the last thing that you explored? What thing or place did you explore?
In reality, you mean
In anything.
the last thing I explored in anything, a frustratingly vague inquiry. Let's see. Last thing I explored, I've been teaching myself Unreal recently, as you know.
Mm, mhm,
That's maybe the thing. I've been coding a lot.
mhm,
Um, yeah, I feel like that's the thing probably that I've explored the most recently. It's funny when I was teaching myself C sharp initially for Unity coding. I kind of there was like a Sapir-Whorf kind of effect that I felt happening, where like I was learning that other language and I started thinking I started thinking in that other language. I started being like very
mhm.
meticulous in my syntax in English. And a similar sort of thing is happening now. I'm sort of learning this other language more um, proficiently, and I'm starting to see the same thing happen.
Ooh, I like
Yeah.
that.
What
Also,
about you? What
let's
have you
see.
explored
What have I explored?
most
Um,
recently?
I think, let's see. I've been exploring, um, maybe like the physicality of randomness. And by that I mean last time in the ideas exchange, because that's the other thing that this club does, I came up with an idea for a game played on an egg, and it's about intimacy. And so part of my idea was like, there's something like kind of visceral and like intimate and gross about like peeling apart this egg, especially when it's super soft boiled and it's like falling apart in your hands and the yolk is coming out. So I'm trying to make a game where it's someone's heart, the egg is someone's heart, and you're doing some sort of like divination. Um, but yeah, I've like never really dove into the physicality of an egg and how like you will like unpeel it, it occupies 2D space. So I was trying that today. It all started as an attempt to eat more eggs. So yeah, it's weird. But yeah,
I
maybe
see.
it's kind of a cop out answer.
I feel like, I mean, I've never explored an egg too closely.
Hmm.
This is an
Yeah.
experience I can't speak to.
Yeah, it's like if you think about it as someone's heart, it's like very intimate and you're like trying to be very careful with it.
Hmm. So is it like what sort of operation is it again on the heart?
So you're trying to do some sort of divination to figure out whether this person is
Divination.
going to be, yeah, like good for your purposes or not. So it's kind of consumptive, hence egg. Um, but yeah, so you're trying to peel it very carefully, not break the egg, but they're kind of contradictory, that sort of thing.
Hmm. I see.
Also, I realized maybe you can introduce yourself in like a sentence because not everyone knows you.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Well, hello. I'm Dimitri. Um, I work as a 3D modeler, animator, character artist guy. Kelly and we're coworkers. We are now good friends who talk about video games often. Um, anyway,
Hell yeah.
I'm like a 3D art guy, sort of game designer also. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's my in here.
Mhm. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. Let us get started. I wanna see you wake up.
All right.
That
You want
sounds
to
worse
see
than it is.
you wanna see me wake up? All right.
Experiences again.
Here we go. Okay. So we're back here on Ember Hearth with this guy.
I think I'm not getting any sound from you.
Any sound?
Yeah.
From me or from the game?
Or from the game, I mean.
Let me see if I can adjust the volume. I turned it down so that it wouldn't interfere. Perhaps I turned it down too much.
I
Can you
think
hear
it's
it
just
now?
not streaming the sound. That's okay.
What if we make something quite loud happen? Did you hear that?
Nope. I think it's just not streaming
Jeez.
sound. Well, that's too
Oh
bad.
no.
But,
That is kind of bad.
that's okay. We'll just talk about it.
Sure,
Um,
okay.
so one of the things I was hoping for, which is like, I mean, the sound design is awesome. I love when like,
Oh no.
hmm?
Mm-hmm.
It's
No, I
just
was gonna
like,
say the sound design is awesome.
yeah.
Can't say the same. All right,
You have
whatever.
to go play it yourself if you want to experience it. But
Mm-hmm.
um, something that I find so interesting about this game is like the manualness of it. It's like
Mm-hmm.
despite being a game where multiple civilizations have been spacefaring, the way you control the little spaceship and when you wake up like that like that breath in, like everything about it just feels so um like embodied and manual, you know? It's not like the whole smooth, like all these processes happen behind your back type thing.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. I think I remember reading something at some point about the way they designed this spaceship to be made out of like wood and tape, like to make it look very like to make it seem like people made it, like it
Mhm.
was very clearly, put together. Um, I don't know. Also, I agree. The way that even in terms of the UI here, like the way that the UI for the ship is the actual the actual like hub of this or the actual like
Mhm.
cockpit of this ship, the way that the UI when you're walking around on planets is what actually appears inside the helmet of your character.
Mhm.
I don't know. There's a lot of that in the game, and I think it really contributes to, how immersive it feels.
Mhm.
I'm gonna just stare at the sun because, well, actually, I shouldn't. I should avoid this sun. Where should we go to walk around on? I feel like Brittle Hollow is a
Yes.
good
I was
one.
gonna say that.
All right, cool. Let's
Yeah.
go there.
I feel like also a lot of the times in like space-y media, the sort of like futuristic sci-fi feels very like sometimes it's used to like distance you
Mm,
from like emotionally from the setting. Whereas I feel like this, and I don't have a good example, maybe 2001: A Space Odyssey, but there's something
certainly, yeah.
about this that feels so cozy with the manualness. It like contributes to the coziness factor. But like it's funny, it's also a weird coziness factor because the whole thing is like, the thing that you're on is the launch platform is totally flammable.
Wait, what do you mean?
You said that to me. It was like when you talk to the people on the ground.
What?
Ooh, that was a near miss.
Close call. Yes.
When you talk to the people on the ground, they're like, "Oh, the launch platform is flammable."
Oh, I don't remember that. I'm afraid.
Hmm. Well, you pointed it out to me.
Oh, well, I haven't picked this. I'm surprised. Oh no.
Ooh.
I'm surprised that I remember as well as I do how to play this. Like all
Mhm.
it's muscle memory, but I didn't think it would hold up. It's been a while since I have actually played this game.
Yeah.
I don't remember that specific line of dialogue. But
Mhm.
yeah, I think definitely like that's an interesting point about futuristic aesthetics kind of like allowing you to emotionally detach from the story a little bit. I think one of the really cool things about the game is how hold on. Wait, I have to remember how to jump before I start talking about how the game works. Sorry. Yeah, I think one of the really cool things about the game is how it kind of it like really gets you emotionally. How do I describe it? Basically, the game it sort of requires you to be all there. Like it
Mhm,
requires you to immerse yourself in figuring out how the world works. So like when you're just getting started, you know, you don't necessarily know how to jump around. Basically like how much your character weighs, like how quickly the jets will propel you on your jetpack or whatever.
mhm,
But like, you want to figure out how to get to the next location, or like you want to figure out how to like if you go under the surface here to the to like the hanging city, you want to
mhm,
figure out how you can jump across, to get to like the thing you can see in the distance. So like you really give it your all in terms of like um like I'm
mm,
sorry, I'm distracted. Um but anyway, yeah, like the story kind of requires you to like get engaged and to explore and to try things out. Um
mhm,
and the there are basically the narrative dimensions of the game in terms of the story and like the backstory of the characters and things, they kind of are about this too in a way. Like the
mhm.
characters are also trying to explore the Harthians are trying to explore the solar system, the Nomai are trying to explore the eye. um there is a sense of just like everything in this world, like you playing the game and then the other civilizations that have been here before you and while you're here too are just all trying to like just giving it their all to like try to figure something out. And I think it's really neat how the game like puts you in the position of doing that while also, you understand, like building the story around that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it does its 3D-ness very well. It's like the way all the puzzles and the exploration depend on you moving in 3D space. It's probably like the I'm gonna make a statement and say it's the best 3D game. It's like the most 3D necessary. I don't know if I
Okay.
believe that, but yeah. It's
I mean,
like
it's oh, sorry, go
mhm.
ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, because you don't just, like, go around, you, like, go up and down, you bump into things I've never tried launching that dude in one of these. But yeah,
Oh,
like
look at this. To this day, we're
so
still
cute.
figuring out how this world works.
Yeah, and it's like the way that things bump into each other, that all matters, and yeah, I don't know, that just, like, contributes to the physicality of it.
hmm I think the other thing, just in terms of this being, a very good 3D, or like I don't know, like a very good 3D game, I was always sort of, I don't know, I've never really been a fan of like first person kind of games. Like I've
Mhm,
always preferred to like, I don't know, like be able to see like the art asset of my character, or like to have a sense of, I don't know, like I had always sort of enjoyed third person controls more before I played this game. But I think the fact that like, I don't know, the the fact that it's not just in first person, but like, in order for you to activate one of these, I don't know, like one of these, what do you call this? I don't know. One
gravity
of these
thing,
gravity,
tube.
yeah, tractor paths or whatever. You have to like look at it and like, hold on,
Mhm,
it's here. I don't know. Basically I agree with you. The physicality is really interesting. And oh no. Sorry. I'm dying down here. I haven't been down here in quite a long time. So I'm distracted. But anyway, oh no.
yeah.
Okay.
I feel like there's something with, like, space, or, like, not space, outer space, but, like, I feel like there's something where the way that you navigate space can contribute to or detract from a sense of, like, coziness and, like, hominess, and I'm trying to figure out, like, there's some games that, like, the way you navigate them, like Obra Dinn, Return of the Obra Dinn, you revisit these spaces over and over, and by the end, I got this like weird feeling of coziness almost. It's like I feel like I'm really familiar, intimately familiar with the space, but at the same time, it's a space where like, 50 people have just like died.
Hmm.
Ooh. Um, so my question to you is like, does Outer Wilds feel cozy to navigate for you?
I think it feels very cozy. Even, I mean, you mentioned even though it's a place where 50 people just, 50 people just died, it's kind of the same thing here too. Like
Mhm.
there's dead nomai all over the solar system. There's all kinds of like scary things and like sorts of obstacles that can kill you. But like it does feel very cozy in a way because like it's a similar kind of thing of like, you've examined these spaces kind of every which way by the time you beat the, by the time you finish the game. Um, it definitely does. I don't know, like I haven't been in here for a while, but I'm back in here now, and it just feels like familiar. Like I remember all of this,
Yeah.
I remember what it was like to figure out, what was going on over here the first time. That kind of,
And I
that kind
remember,
of.
like, I remember being so scared when I first played this game. And also for some context, so I heard about this game from multiple people. Lauren was one of them. And so and it was like multiple people whose taste I trust. Like sometimes people tell me things, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if that's good. But it's multiple people whose taste I trust. And then you were telling me about it, Dimitri, and that's when I was like, okay, I have to play this now because there's enough of a consensus. And then I played it starting with you, like, um, I think I was like streaming it, and then you would hop in and watch. And I was so scared when I was first playing it. Everything where I was going, I was like, oh my God, what's happening? But I also feel like, yeah, at this point, now that I've known the game well enough and the places, it kind of feels cozy, especially because it gives you these moments of like respite where you're supposed to have like a puzzle solution and you get the trees and everything. It's almost like I'm gonna say Chicago thing. Frank Lloyd Wright had this like theory of architecture that was like compress and release, and it was like some spaces are compression spaces. They're small and they're tight, and you kind of get want to get out of them, and then some are release spaces where you want to relax and stay in.
Hmm.
And I would say the size of the space is kind of reversed here, but it's at like compress and release. It's like there's, the tense moments, you're going across the surface, you're trying to find a thing, and then there's a brief like release where you get the trees, you can, recoup.
The trees are definitely like, yeah, the trees are definitely a great like mechanical release. Like anytime there are trees. Yeah, no, I agree. Oh no. Sorry.
And
Oh
so I
geez.
wonder,
I
like,
Okay,
go
I'm
ahead.
I
gonna
was gonna say I think once the
I
sun
pop in.
explodes, I might wanna stop playing the game for a bit so that I can focus on the on the conversation a bit more. Is that all right?
Yeah. Lauren,
Okay,
were you gonna
cool.
hop in and say something?
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to wait to the end, but
Do
I
your
felt
thing.
like I had to hop in. I've been reading a lot of like eco fiction and nonfiction. I think Kelly, we've talked a little bit
Mhm.
about it. The most recent thing I was reading was talking about like thinking of time as a spiral instead of like the linear like, version of time that we have with calendars and
Ooh.
life and death cycles. And I think this game does a really good job at looking at timelines beyond like yourself. Um, like sure we can think of like the previous society as having died, but like the fact that their technology is still kind of alive is like, are they totally gone? Like,
Mhm.
is time a spiral?
Yeah, it also like, well, that's funny because I was thinking about how their text is written in spirals and how like I always
Oh
thought that
yeah, I forgot about that.
yeah, I always thought that was kind of like a weird, unnecessary like aesthetic choice. I was like, okay, whatever, but actually it kind of fits together.
Mhm.
That actually reminds me, like, when I was playing this game, I think I was really interested in nonlinear time as, like, an
Mm.
expression of something. Probably probably something anti-productivity, something.
Mhm. I mean, there's definitely something anti-productive about the 22-minute time loop where the sun explodes. You know, you can't do much. I don't know. I think it's interesting because there are a lot of games where so like I've been studying historical games recently, and there's a lot of in those games there's a lot of talk of just like um you know like unparalleled historical accuracy and like freedom of gameplay and that sort of thing. But in games that are sort of very expansive and sandbox type like that, it can actually I don't know, the fact that it's I'm about to say like a sort of more drawn out version of a sort of simpler observation. But basically, I think the fact that like Outer Wilds gives you a world that you cannot actually change at all, like that doesn't really change at all, where like new things, barring the activation of the eye, like new things cannot really happen. It kind of feels, I don't know, like it's able to feel so much more immersive, and you kind of as an agent feel like you actually have a bit more like when it comes down to the end of the game and you observe the eye, it feels so much more earned because like everything in this world is just fixed except for that one thing.
Mm.
um oh no, the banjo just kicked in, sorry.
Yeah,
I've never Sorry,
that
go
is
ahead.
really interesting too because, like, thinking about the power fantasy of historical games, it is a very linear narrative. It's like you start off with, like, I'm thinking of Age of Empires, which is the closest to a historical game I've played, but it's like you start off as this person or this I guess group of people. You're trying to produce units. You're trying to produce more and more units until you go out and you conquer everybody and everything, and then you're done,
Yeah,
basically.
right. Hmm.
Whereas like this is and so it's in some ways it's like the natural or the earned or the like should be progression is to start from nothing, go to something. But because this doesn't have that linearity, it's kind of like, yeah, it's like you're earning it more because it's not necessarily the expected progression. Or is it? I guess you could argue that like you're supposed to finish the game, so you're supposed to have that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're supposed to finish the game, but at the same time, it's you sort of arrive at the opportunity to finish the game through your own through your own
Mm.
initiative, basically, like through your own, you know, exploration of the world and assessment of what's happening. Like with something like an Age of Empires or like a historical game, there's a sense of like, you are here to conquer the world, and like everybody in the game helps you do that. Here, though, it's like in order for you to arrive at the true story of the game and like what's really happening, you sort of you know, it doesn't happen because you've like defeated all of the monsters who are standing in your way or whatever. But like you really do have to figure it out all on your own initiative. Um, I kind of feel so.
I'm also realizing when you start the game, I don't even think they tell you an objective. Oh wow, I didn't know you could see the moons or the twins in the background.
Oh yeah.
But like you're not told, "Hey, something weird is happening, go figure it out." You just
Hmm.
kind of they're like, "Oh, today's your big day. You're going to leave the planet. Don't set things on fire. Haha." And then it
Hmm.
just like lets you loose. And they're like, "Do whatever you want." And then I think like the first inkling of initiative is the fact that you die and you kind of come back. And that's almost like a player driven goal. Like the game's not like, figure it out. It's just kind of like you're curious as a player.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's the thing. I feel like here more than in any other game that I've played that has been the case of just like, you kind of come to understand what is interesting about the world. Um, and you decide to act on it. I feel like
Yeah.
the Quantum Moon is a great example of that in particular because the game doesn't even mention like the Harthians here. Like there's no suggestion. I should say the first time that you encounter the Quantum Moon, there's no suggestion anywhere of what it actually is. Like it doesn't have a name attached to it in your ship's HUD or anything.
Hmm.
And, you know, it feels I don't know, like it's just like it's such an immediately captivating thing because there's like no information on it. You know what I mean? And the game
Yeah.
allows you to even when you gather from the Nomai like what they knew about it, how they would go on pilgrimage to the moon, there's still so much of it that is mysterious and that you kind of have to deliberately figure out how it fits together on your own. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah,
good
and
example.
also, I mean, looping back to what you were saying earlier, it's also like part of the non-linearity of this game is like realistically as a player without outside help, you can't figure it out without having gone through the loop several times. And so it's like it is kind of a non-linear structure that the game makes you have.